TED conference is in the news because apparently there was one gentleman by the name of Nick Hanauer, he's a venture capitalist, who gave a speech on the disparity of wealth here in the country, right? So there's the ultra rich, and of course they're the super poor. And
can I just say, Nick Hanauer, friend of the show, he's been on the Young Turks before, and he's terrific because he's one of those guys who understands and appreciates the wealth that he has. He made it in all the right ways. His company got bought. He made a lot of money, paid his taxes, and thinks that that there's this wealth disparity, and it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the rich, doesn't help the middle class, doesn't help anybody in the country. So he's the perfect guy to give that speech.
Now, whenever someone gives a speech at TED, usually what happens is they'll put the speech up on YouTube or they'll publish a transcript of the speech. That way, anyone who wasn't able to attend will have the ability to watch or read that speech. However, they made a conscious decision not to do so because they found his speech to be too politically charged. In fact, let me read you what the National Journal said. They said, TED officials just this month, May of 2012, told Hanauer that his remarks were both too controversial and too political for them to post. Also, one of the curators for TED said, Hanauer's talk probably ranks as one of the most politically controversial talks we've ever run, and we need to be really careful when to post it. The next week ain't right. Confidentially, we already have Melinda Gates on contraception going out. Sorry for the mixed messages on this.
So that's fascinating. So I guess they're saying that Melinda Gates on contraception is also political? Like
political, too controversial.
But I mean, okay, is breathing political? Okay, most sane people believe that contraception is perfectly acceptable. In fact, 99% of sexually active women in the country use contraception. But what we have to, because there's 1%, but it happens to be the 1% that's the head of the Republican Party, that we just can't even have a speech on contraception? And on wealth disparity, but that's a fact. That's a fact that we have horrible income inequality here. Is it politically charged to point out facts? And I guess it's almost TED in a way saying that they're embarrassed for Republicans because it's obviously the Republicans' fault.
I don't think they're embarrassed for Republicans. I think if anything, they're afraid of offending Republicans. They're afraid of offending the corporations, the people who are receiving the huge tax cuts in this country. To attend the TED conference, you have to pay thousands of dollars. It's not a cheap event to attend. Let's keep that in mind.
That's a fair point. I hadn't thought of that, and to what degree is TED considering that? We don't know, of course, right? But we do know that there is tremendous wealth inequality in this country, about the same level as right before the Great Depression, and that you'd almost be negligent not to point it out. If they look back, and TED does a wonderful series. I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I'm saying. And they have these great speeches, et cetera. And in a lot of ways, it's a great documentation of where the country, where society, where the world was at that particular time. The record would be incomplete if you didn't have a speech on the enormous wealth disparity we have in this country and the huge consequences that flow from it.
Right, and Business Insider, by the way, I have to give them a lot of credit because I don't know how they did it, but they somehow managed to get the slides from the presentation. Who knows, maybe Nick Hanauer leaked it to them. I don't know, that's just my guess. But the slides look great. There's a slide about job creators showing that giving these rich people tax cuts doesn't necessarily create jobs. The evidence proves otherwise. It seemed like a great speech, and I wish that we would have the ability to watch it. But if you didn't get the opportunity to see the speech, you can always go to Business Insider, and they have the slides for you.
All right, just go back to that last one for a second. All these slides are terrific, but this is a great one because it shows you, look, when the effective tax rate on millionaires was 30%, unemployment was down at 5.6%. Now, that's in the mid-1990s during the Clinton administration. Things are going well, right? Now, in 2009, the effective tax rate on millionaires has gone all the way down to 22%. So it's gone, and remember the whole point of lowering those taxes theoretically was we're going to create jobs, we're going to create jobs. They're the job creators. So if you give tax cuts to millionaires, it's okay because you'll benefit from it because you'll have more jobs. Show the slide one more time. That's not how it turned out. It turned out that we actually had much greater unemployment. Now, you can say there's a confluence of events, et cetera. I can get into all those events for you and show you how they're all connected. But one thing is for sure. They said if we did tax cuts for the rich, that we would have more jobs. We did not. Even if you think that the causes of the recession were otherwise, The tax cuts were supposed to help us, but they didn't. It's a fact. All those graphs show it. It's a fact. They didn't create more jobs. We have less jobs. It was a lie all along. It was a fairy tale told to make the rich feel better, and in fact, to make the politicians feel better as they took bribes from the rich and from corporations to lower their taxes so that they can go out and tell the public, oh no, it's okay, vote for us, and we're doing the right thing, because eventually it'll trickle down to you lesser people. But it didn't. It hurt us. And that's what Nick Hanauer wanted to point out, and apparently that's controversial to point out facts.